Okay, good evening, YouTube. Welcome back to this next episode of FPL Family with me, Lee, and this is Sam. And Sam, if you're playing FPL and you have a defence which consists of Cancelo, Shaw, and Ben White, you're on a big fat 0 points for this week. But thankfully, most of us have a player that we should be captaining every damn week. Kieran Trippier, 3 bonus points. Even though he got the yellow card, the guy's an absolute machine.
He is literally a magnet to bonus points.
So good, Kieran Trippier.
Don't know many defenders in the game ever that have been quite as much of a bonus point magnet as Trippier.
I looked at his bonus points for the last few game weeks, and it's like 3-3-2, 3-2-2, 3-2. Like, he always gets bonus.
Yeah.
Always. It's just unbelievable. I don't know why we bother captaining anybody else. I'll tell you why we bother.
Because Haaland got a hat-trick today. So...
I'll tell you why we bother in captaining anybody else, Sam, because Erling Haaland is back after a couple of weeks of does that count as a goal drought for him? I think it probably does, doesn't it? I mean, what, 2 or 3 weeks with only one goal?
Captained him this week, shouldn't you?
Yeah, well, listen. Yes, I should have, but I was never going to, was I, quite frankly? But for those of you that are in the know, and if you've been living under a rock since we last spoke to you, you may not know, but you should know, that we have more double game weeks on the horizon. A quick shout out to the thumbnail for this video. Yes, Manchester United not only have a double game week next week, but a very nice looking double game week with I think it's Palace and Leeds both at home, isn't it? So that's what made me think of that. If you've played your triple captainship on Haaland last week, which I did, I am now well behind the sofa for next week because I'm assuming you are at least considering, spoiler alert, playing the triple captainship for next week on Rashi.
If the double game week goes ahead.
If it goes ahead, yes. Because both Manchester United and Leeds both need to avoid a cup replay, right?
Correct.
And they have FA Cup matches, FA Cup ties, which are ultimately fairly winnable, I would suggest, on paper. So we think that they probably won't need a replay. So we think, therefore, there will be a double game week.
Yeah. And
that's what we're saying.
And if all those stars line up, and there is a double game week, then it's nailed on. You will be playing the triple captainship. I suspect many of you will be, guys. Get in the comments and in the chat. He's a beast at the moment. Let us know. Absolutely. What a goal today, by the way. What a goal today. And were it not for a very good Arsenal team, yes, would have got more than he did. Yes, and actually I think it's going again. You've made it. Is the microphone a bit slippy? Yeah, because you made it too heavy. All right, so let's knock it back a little bit, and because it needs to be up a little bit. There we go. That's probably better. Yeah, and were it not for a decent save from Ramsdale as well, at the beginning of that second half, could have had 2 easily. Rashi today. Yeah. It was one of those performances. We'll talk about our teams a bit later on, how we're getting on. Of course, we've got 1 game still to go. It is Sunday night, but we've got Spurs versus Fulham still on
Monday night. You're doing a little jig, are you? Because Fulham away
no, but this is
a
great.
difficult fixture.
But this is great, because normally I have to sit here being like...
Yeah, to be fair, only one of us is going to be negging on our football teams this weekend.
I've got all the hope.
Yeah.
It's the hope that kills you.
It is the hope that kills you.
But this week I've got all the hope. I can go into Monday morning, I'm going to get up, I'm going to feel chipper. Yeah. I'm going to skip to work. I'm going to be happy.
Only for Spurs to let you down in the evening.
Then Tuesday's going to be difficult.
Oh, God. Fulham away is a difficult game, I have to say.
We were good away from home.
Loads of stuff going on about... we're not going to talk about Spurs, because it's the one live stream where you haven't played, so we can not talk about Spurs. But you've got... one of your directors of football, whatever he's called, has got a ban now in Italy. So he's got Juventus have had a 15-point deduction as a result of his shenanigans. You got Conte, who apparently is not committing to a new contract. I'm off at the end of the season unless you back me in the window. You've got Harry Kane, who's potentially going to Man United in the summer. Ugh. It's all falling apart, isn't it?
Rebuild. Just rebuild.
Rebuild. Rebuild around Oliver Skip. That's
rebuild. But let's go back.
To what?
To the good old days.
Poch, don't you? You again.
I want Poch back. Bring back Poch.
I think when Conte came in, I think we both sat here and went, you've got one of the sort of top 5 managers in the world there. You need to back him, you need to support him, you need to get behind him. And here we are.
Bring back Poch.
Couple of transfer windows in, and Levy's not backed him. He's not supported him.
No, I don't think that's true.
God.
I honestly don't think you can sit here and say that he's not been supported in the windows. This time last year, we brought in Bentancur and Kulusevski.
Yes.
Who
have ultimately turned out to be very shrewd signings.
Turned out to be great signings. We have spent. It's not like we've spent no money over the last few years. We've bought Richarlison in the summer. We have gone out and bought decent options. Romero, we've bought players. He's not been backed.
Yeah.
So I'm not with the upset Spurs fans about that. He needs to be given more money this, more money that. He's had money. He's supposed to be one of the best managers in the world. Bring back Poch.
All right, enough Spurs chat. I've had enough already. Nigel the Crab, thank you, Nigel the Crab.
Which
I think is Simon Badette's new name. Hello,
he
Nigel
he
the
lost.
Crab.
He lost a bet today.
Well, that is the nature of the super chat, Sam. Evening Bonfields. Hello, mate. He says I've lost another bet, so I've got another new name. Haaland hauls when I don't back him. He captain trips, but I'm on 79 points. Who came to play? So having not captained Haaland, still on 79 is a bloody good score, I would say.
I think he said he would only get 1 goal or less today. Basically, right. I think he said he was over. I think that's what he claimed.
Very good score to have not captained Haaland. And I have to say...
I can't wait for you to look at the Manager of the Month spreadsheet, because every time you look at it, Sai's taking a ridiculous hit.
It's like minus 12 last week, or minus... Yeah, I looked at his score and it was just 112 last week. I was 112, fair play. And it's minus 26 or something.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Cybernet, always worth having a look at your team, mate, because it makes me chuckle. I feel for those that went against the Haaland captain a little bit, because there was a little bit of there was a few that sort of going towards Mitoma captain as a massive differential. There was a few that are kind of like Simon. As did, I think, go for Mitoma captain, which this time yesterday was looking like a bloody good move, wasn't it? And I went on Sky on Saturday morning and stated my case. There was a whole section, state your case, and mine was Mitoma. So I'm glad to have got that one right, at least. And I think I've been sitting here for a couple of weeks talking about how good this guy is.
Max Boyman this week.
Max's team is doing amazing, isn't it?
Isn't
it top 30k?
Yeah. Yesterday was the top 30k. Captain Haaland, he got KDB today. Honestly, the kid...
It's unreal.
It drives me potty, because I spend all this time thinking about my team, what I'm going to do, and then I basically say to him, right, Max, your weakest link is Almiron. What would you like to do about that? And he goes... oh, this, that and the other. And I go, okay, here's your 2 options. And he was like, go with Mitoma then.
Well, he doesn't know who Mitoma is, surely. I think you say, well, Brighton have got some good fixtures. And he's like, well, who's good for Brighton? And you said Mitoma, and he goes, yeah, all right.
I'll give him 2 options. I can't remember who it was this week. It was Mitoma and... I can't remember who.
McAllister, probably, because you love him so much.
It wasn't 2 Brighton players. It was a Brighton player and someone else. I can't remember now. And then I was like, good fixtures, this, that, and the other, good form. He was like, all right, Mitoma it is then.
All right. Well, listen.
Why don't I do it with my own team?
There's something to be learnt there, isn't there, about the amount of time and effort we put into our teams versus the amount of time and effort that you put into Max's team and that he does. I also think that there's definitely a bit of overthinking. Definitely on my part this week. We'll talk about my bench a bit later on. I've had a mare this week. I'll tell you about that a bit later. Definite overthinking on my part, which has cost me 7 points. But yeah, is that a thing? Are we overthinking FPL a bit too much?
I don't think it's that. I think it's that for us and the guys out there that watch us, we take it really, really serious, and like for us, like it's a big deal, and the decisions that you make can make or break your weekend, and can make or break your emotional, your feelings at the end of the day. You know, yesterday, good feelings today, maybe not so, depending upon who you've had or who you've captained. Whereas I think when you're when you're 9, and you know you're playing for the first time, there's no pressure on it, and you just do what you want, and you make fun choices again. And
Andrew Yee is saying you got the wrong Bonfields on the channel. Just get him on here. We'll have a Sunday evening free.
I mean, he is asleep.
He's in bed. So... Yeah. But it's a hard one to swallow for Si, I would suggest, because looking at the Fantasy Football Scout members area, and those of you that aren't members of Fantasy Football Scout yet, you can get to the links in the description below. There's a little affiliate link there where you can go join up. A lot of the stats and the insight that we use right here on the show, you can get from the members area in Fantasy Football Scout. Very, very useful and integral part of this show. Top for crosses this week, Sam, with 16, Kieran Trippier. Top for chances created with 8 this week, Kieran Trippier. So this is why he's smashing the bonus points every week, even if he gets booked, because he's so creative. He gets into dangerous areas and he's putting balls in the box.
100%. Trips, he's fantastic. He's been fantastic since he was at Spurs. Like he's quality. But now he's playing in a Newcastle team that's really rock solid defensively around him and in the midfield ahead of him. Yeah. So there's not a lot to dislike. I think the only thing, you know, at the moment they are really, really good. Really good defensively.
Oh, more than really good, yeah.
However, and the only reason I ended up going Haaland over Trippier this week was because Newcastle just aren't scoring very many goals.
Well, I'm going to segue into it. Why don't we just crack on with the games from here, Sam? We'll say hello to a few people as we go throughout the stream. But Crystal Palace 0, Newcastle 0. Palace holding Newcastle. And yeah, I mean, Newcastle, unbelievably good defensively. Unbelievably good. I mean, they've conceded something like 11 goals all season. I think that's their 12th clean sheet. It's just unreal. But they are struggling at the other end of the pitch a little bit. Yeah. A bit of lack of consistency between, is it Isak or is it Callum Wilson? I know Isak's coming back from injury. Almiron seems to have gone off the boil a little bit. Part of me was looking this week into doing Almiron to Mitoma.
Yeah, I was too.
And in the end, I didn't do it because I thought, well, I'd like to have 2 free transfers going into next game week because I know where the doubles are going to be. And I still feel like that's the right thing because I feel well positioned going into next game week. Yeah. But I don't know, I feel like I've missed a trick there and held on to Almiron 1 week too long.
Well, I think it's a couple of weeks too long. I think the reality is...
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
You could have sold...
It's a mistake, I think.
I think the reality of the situation is we could have actually sold Almiron at the World Cup. But at that point, we weren't really 100% sure whether this was this new Almiron or was this purple patch Almiron, and how long did the purple patch last?
But his underlying stats are not good since the restart.
That's what I mean.
This is it. So it's not like he's just been unlucky.
No, correct. So the purple patch has ended. Is my view.
Feels like it.
But I think that this game against Crystal Palace was a difficult one to sell him ahead of because Crystal Palace they've been leaky defensively, and I did think that Newcastle would win this game. I thought they would score. I thought they'd keep a clean sheet, but I thought they would score. I just didn't think they'd score loads. I thought they might win it 1-0 because that's kind of how Newcastle have been.
And I'll tell you what, that is my thinking going forward, as certainly before this game week with the Mitoma switch and going into next game week with the 2 free transfers. I'm looking at Almiron out and going, well, okay, he's got high ownership, which has been part of the reason I've not taken him out so far because he's at EO. I know you shouldn't get scared by EO, but I couldn't help it. But then if I look at that, I say, well, I'll take him out. What's the worst that can happen? I feel like Newcastle are not a team that are going to go out there and get 3s and 4s.
No, they're not.
They get 1s and 2s. So the sort of worst case scenario feels like, watch them go and get 5-0 against somebody now. But I feel like the worst case scenario with Almiron is that he gets 1 goal. Yeah. Or absolute worst gets a couple 1 week. And you miss out on a sort of 11, 12, 13 pointer 1 week. It doesn't feel like the sort of player that's going to... Now listen, for his price... Still great value, potentially, if he can find a bit of form again. But there is so much other value elsewhere that you kind of put him in that bracket and you go, well, if I look at that Brighton side under De Zerbi, they're almost the opposite to Newcastle. Prone to concede the odd goal, I think, but going forward, fantastic what he's got them doing, De Zerbi. And you go into every game week thinking they could get 2 or 3 goals, and therefore you've got to back the Newcastle defence and the Brighton forward line, I would suggest.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that there are a lot of options that you could go to from Almiron. Brighton definitely are one of them, but for a lot of FPL managers, myself, one of them, Cancelo is there, stinking up my backline week upon week. And
another dropped. Was he even benched today?
Yeah, he was on the bench.
Yeah, didn't come on, right?
No. Okay. Good old KWP coming on off the bench again.
Nearly scored, didn't he, Carl Walker-Peters? Everyone ruled out for VAR.
Stop.
That was unlucky. To be fair.
Can you imagine if he'd come off my bench for Cancelo? I'd have been sweating that whole Manchester City game thinking, can you please stay on the bench? But he's there in his ridiculous price tag that he's got over his head. If I sell him, then suddenly...
You have to sell him, don't you?
Well, yeah, I'm going to. But so that means that Almiron could realistically be Saka, he could be Ødegaard. There are, if you've got a bit of extra money to invest in that position, you can feasibly take Almiron up, not by spending a lot more of your FPL budget.
So if you were going to come down off, let's talk about those moves then. We're skipping ahead to potentially what we're going to do over the mini break we've got now from FPL. But if you're going to come down off of Cancelo, where are you going to go?
Well, I don't have an Arsenal defender right now. Okay. And obviously they are going to double in game week 23.
Yeah.
So that is on my mind, that I would like an Arsenal defender heading into that one. However, my original intention was to go Ben White, go at the cheap end of the budget. But obviously, today he came off at half time.
That was because he was booked, though. He's up against Rashford, who on any given day he'll buy a foul, and he was on a bit of a tightrope, I think, Ben White. So he stuck Tomiyasu on there. I think he was just protecting Ben White, to be honest. I don't think there's any risk of rotation there necessarily.
Tomiyasu got the assist today.
You think there is a bit of a risk of rotation around Ben White?
I think there might be.
I'm not sure about that.
So I think you've got other options in that Arsenal defence.
You have, yes.
The likes of Saliba, Gabriel.
Zinchenko played well today.
That I could go to. They're all going to cost me a little bit more money, but that's fine because at the moment, with the way that I don't want other premiums, money is kind of no object, so it doesn't really matter.
We're going to go to Arsenal Man United in just a second.
But the Newcastle double up could happen as well.
Yeah,
it's just that they don't have the double, and that at the moment,
yes,
it's not a deal breaker that they don't have a double, because we've seen over the last couple of game weeks that single game weekers can do great things in a double game week. However, when you've got teams like Manchester United doubling, Arsenal doubling, and Man City doubling, it does feel a little bit weird to go for anyone else.
Yeah, as FPL Harry is saying, hey Harry, how you doing, mate? We've got to talk about our game a bit later on. Oh, goodness me. Harry and I were on the Off the Bench podcast earlier in the week, and I can tell you, if you listen to that, you'll know that neither of us was that excited about Liverpool versus Chelsea, and so it proved. Although I have to say, if that Chelsea goal stands in the first couple of minutes, it's a different game, and we were a bit lucky to get away with that. But more on Liverpool Chelsea a bit later on. Or should we spend any time on it? Because frankly, I was bored during it, and I'll be bored talking about it. But Harry is saying, Tomiyasu did get the assist down, but he passed it 5 yards, and Saka scored a worldie. It's hardly an assist. He gets an FPL assist for that, but come on. Wow. Saka belted it in from, 30, 40 yards, and what a goal it was, by the way. So,
my point was that actually Tomiyasu came on, thought did all right.
All right.
That was more my point.
Yeah, all right. So Crystal Palace 0, Newcastle 0. I don't think we're investing in any Palace going forward, but Newcastle, yes. If they get to the EFL Cup final, they get to the League Cup final.
That's just another thing, isn't it?
Which we expect them to do, right? The draw
First
is
kind
of
week.
It is. There's a two-legged affair, isn't it? So I think most of us on this live stream would say we're expecting a Newcastle versus Man United EFL Cup final because of the way the draw's fallen, and that's no offence to either Southampton or is it Brentford that are in the semi-finals, or is it Forest?
I think
it's Forest. So no offence to any Saints or Forest fans that are out there, but if we get the League Cup final that we expect, we know that both Newcastle and Manchester United play in the League Cup final in game week 25, therefore they won't play, and nor will their opponents that week either.
Which is where you've got Brentford from. Brentford and Brighton.
Because Brentford and Brighton are the opponents. Okay, fair enough. So, yeah, if you needed any more reasons to get off of Almiron, there's another one I would suggest.
And another reason for me not to take Cancelo to another Newcastle defender, because it's gonna Not only will I miss out on the doubles in 22 and 23, but then I've potentially got a blank. I think with Manchester United, if you want to treble up for the double in 22, you still have 3 weeks in which to de-invest one of them ahead of the blank in 25. So if they blank in 25. So I think Newcastle, yes, they look solid defensively. Yes, I think if you want to do the double up on them, you absolutely can. That's been paying dividends for Max for the last few weeks as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
However, the attacking players, and it's the one thing with Trippier, I think, that slightly put me off the captaincy in the end was, yes, I think you're great. Yes, I think you could get some attacking returns because you get in all the right places, you put in great balls, you run some set pieces. But if your teammates aren't converting those chances that you're creating...
Yeah.
You're not going to get any... I mean, yes, you get bonus points, but you're not going to get any attacking returns for that. And so it always feels like at the moment Trippier's kind of got a 9-point ceiling because I don't see the attacking returns coming off the back of what he's creating through no fault of his own.
Yeah, I feel like he's like a 15, 16 point away to happen. So even if he blanks in 25, I'm still keeping him. Right? There's no question of that. Just before we get on to Arsenal Man U, which is a game I want to talk about next, let's just discuss those fixtures. So here's the Fantasy Football Scout fixture ticker. So again, if you're a member of Fantasy Football Scout, and if you're not, the link's in the description below, but if you are, you can head to the members area and you can look at the FDR, the fixture difficulty rating ticker. And by the way, if you disagree with any of the fixture difficulty ratings that the Scout team have given to any of these games, you can change them, add your own interpretation, and you can filter and change the table to your heart's content. But as you'll see at the top there, Arsenal sitting pretty, right? So not only are they sitting pretty at the top of the league, several points clear, but it's Everton next, who look in absolute dire straits. I can't think that Frank Lampard has got too much longer left, and the Goodison faithful will not be welcoming Arsenal, the league leaders, to Goodison with any hope or expectation coming into 22. And then they've got 23 Arsenal, the double game week, of course. Manchester City is one of those games, but it is nonetheless a double game week. Then it's Villa, Leicester and Bournemouth. So it feels like a very good time to be tripling up on Arsenal. More on those in a second. Then Manchester United a few lines down. So there's the double game week that we mentioned. Palace and Leeds at home in 22, which just looks too good to turn down. Then it's interestingly Leeds again in 23, but the return fixture. Then Leicester and Brentford before, and here's a really good example of what I was talking about, changing the fixture difficulty. Liverpool away in 26, but listen, going to Anfield right now will hold no fear for Erik ten Hag and his boys. So again, really nice fixtures going forward. Before we talk about Arsenal, Manchester United, do you think it's the right time now to triple up on both ahead of the next, what we've got here, 5 game weeks, maybe longer? Because if we talk about that game, well, let's get into the detail of that game. But first and foremost, 2 sides at the top of their game right now. Really, really good performances. Despite the defeat, United were good, right?
Correct. I thought... I mean, I've watched a lot of football lately. It feels like since the World Cup has finished, or all I've done at the weekends, and actually in a lot of midweeks, is watch football. This was honestly one of the best games I've watched.
Really good game.
In a very, very
really
long time. Yeah. Both sides playing incredibly well. Manchester United, I think, coming off the back of that result, will feel hard done by, that they didn't get something out of the game, because actually they played well. I thought they defended well against that constant Arsenal attack after attack. De Gea made some absolutely fantastic saves. Luke Shaw did a good job, I thought. But, and going forward, Rashford was looking really threatening again, as is always the case.
Do you know what? I think the addition of Wout Weghorst as well has made Rashford, and
it makes him better
to a lesser degree, because I don't rate the player yet, Anthony, but certainly those two are the beneficiaries of Wout Weghorst. I think I'm not entirely convinced that Weghorst is going to be an FPL asset for us. I don't think. I can't see that. But for sure, his hold-up play, even on the Rashford goal, did you see the run that he made and the movement and the way that Gabriel followed him, opening up the space for Rashford to have the shot? Take nothing away from Rashford. Phenomenal shot. Straight as an arrow into that bottom corner. Keeper, no chance. But he was only afforded that space because of the movement of Wout Weghorst. So going into this period of unbelievable fixtures for Manchester United, as we say, and their unreasonable form despite the defeat here, which 3 are you going to be looking at? I mean, Rashford's in there, that's a given. You've got Shaw. I guess you're pretty happy sticking with him. Who's the third one?
Probably Bruno.
Bruno, yeah, okay.
Probably. I've got quite a lot of money in the bank, so with a downgrade on Cancelo to a Arsenal defender, I can afford to take Almiron to Bruno.
Can you?
Yeah.
Oof. Okay, nice. All right.
So I think that is my current... I mean, that's a massive spoiler alert for the end, but I think that's my current plan. If Manchester United double.
Yeah.
If Manchester United don't double in 22...
They will, come on.
I mean, weirder things have happened. Southampton knocked Man City out of the League Cup.
Yeah, true.
So if they don't double, if it goes to a replay, then I think I'll maybe just stick with my 2 Manchester United assets, because I think I'll prioritise other things given that we would be expecting them to blank in 25. I don't think I'll cause myself a bigger issue.
I just realised if they get a replay in the Cup, then I've probably got the thumbnail of this video is a bit presumptuous, isn't it? I think I'll put something on there about best Man United picks for the double game week.
You'll have to change the title. Yeah, I think so. That's my current thinking. I think they are the 3 best assets. Like, looking around the rest of the Manchester United team, I don't know that there are 3 better assets that you could go to realistically.
Yeah.
Do you?
No, I don't think so. I was looking at that game today and I was really hoping for a better performance from Anthony. I was kind of looking at him thinking, if Rashford can benefit from the movement of Wout Weghorst, surely so can Anthony on that side. But we're just not seeing enough of this player. I mean, they paid a lot of money for this guy, but we're just not seeing it, are we? So I think if I was going to go there, the only other one I'd consider is Christian Eriksen, but I don't think you're going to go there either. I think it is Bruno Fernandes. Yeah. And I think despite his price in FPL, because he is going to cost you a few quid, if you can make a move like that and your cash cow, if you like, that you're cashing out is Cancelo, yeah. Why would you not do that?
No, exactly.
Because you're going to you get,
and it's free because I run my transfers.
Yeah, 2 free transfers, and you can get rid of Cancelo, which is a problem, and bring in someone like Bruno. I like it.
The only thing that I don't like about it, and this is that it doesn't allow me to invest more heavily in Arsenal, because I've currently only got Martinelli. Right. I mean, I would be investing more in Arsenal because I'll go with one of the Arsenal defenders, but I do really want to go for another Arsenal attacker, which is why if Manchester United don't double, then it's an absolute no-brainer for me to go Almiron to either Saka or Odegaard. Yeah. All right, Gavin Doyle. Hey, Gavin. He is saying, would Martinez, Sam, be a good alternative to Shaw if United get the double game week, or would you look at a United defensive double up? No. So you've got Shaw. Would you add Martinez, or would you have Martinez instead of Shaw? I think despite the goal today, I mean, it's his first goal of the season as far as I'm aware, I don't think you're going to get the sort of assist potential or goal threat that... I can't really say goal threat with Luke Shaw, but Luke Shaw does give you, particularly if he plays in that left centre-back position, gives you that sort of bonus point potential because of his pass completion rate. Yeah. I think he actually does better for bonus there than he does on the wing. Yeah. But then he's potentially got a little bit more assist threat about him in that sort of wing-back position. Not for me. Not for me, the double up. I don't think for me either, because
Leeds have got a goal in them.
Leeds have got a goal in them, and they play them twice in the next 2 game weeks. So I think that the clean sheet, it might stick, but it could go across those. And I think the thing for me would be, with an eye to 25, I think you're better off to invest twice in the Manchester United attack than you are to invest twice in the Manchester United defence. Yeah, I think so. Rithwick in with a super chat. Thank you, Rithwick. He says, hi, Bombfields. Hi, Rithwick. Hey, yeah. Thanks for the Matoma shout 2 weeks ago. You're bloody welcome, mate. Wish I'd done it myself. Will make my transfers late, but is a -4 worth it for single game week Odegaard against Everton? So there is a nice segue out of Manchester United, who I think we are still backing despite the defeat today. Yes. Into Arsenal, who look... And I know you're not going to like it, Sam, but they look very, very good. Imperious. The thing very is, good. With what Rithwick's just said there, you can't... This Arsenal team are exactly what we mean when we say don't overlook the single game weekers, because... That Everton game has got bloodbath written all over it, isn't it? Absolutely. I mean, you look at the way that Arsenal have attacked Spurs and Manchester United in the last couple of weeks. In the last week. So they've played them 2 in the last week. There's been no fear, no kind of slowing down, no loss of tempo, no loss of rhythm. It's been, we back ourselves to play our game and we'll go and play our game.
And you know what? They went for it today as well.
And they went for it against Spurs. They went for it today. And I've got a lot of respect for it.
Not content with the draw, I noticed. No. It got to sort of 70, 75 minutes. And you're like, well, they'll be pretty happy with the point.
No, they
United will be pretty happy with the point. They'll see this game out 2-2. We'll all shake hands and we'll go to next week. Not a bit of it.
No.
Arteta went for it, went for the win, and he got it. And despite the winner being marginally onside, it was a close VAR call. But Nketiah come up trumps, and you've got to respect Arsenal for that because they totally 100%. Went for it. They go for the goal when they want it.
And this was against Manchester United, right? Now,
good defensive asset, outfit.
Indeed. So put them up against Everton next week.
Yeah,
this is a team that let's just talk about the team for a minute. Forget all the other nonsense that's going on at Everton because there's a lot of it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of white noise, which is obviously going to affect the players. But fundamentally, that team is not good. There are some good players in there that have the potential, players like Damari Gray, players like Dominic Calvert-Lewin, have the potential for bits of magic. The problem is that team cannot defend. Pickford's always got a clanger in him. Every game he's got at least one in him, and he will have one. The defence in front of him are poor, so he's not getting any support. Yeah. So you put them up against the other teams in and around the bottom, and they're going to struggle. You put them in and around the teams at the top, and in this case at the very top with Arsenal. Honestly think this game has got 8-9-0 written all over it.
I'm not sure it'll be that bad.
Arsenal will just go and attack. They will attack and they will move quickly, and they will. I honestly think that and this was why I was kind of a little bit torn when I was talking to you before. And there's the potential there for a -4 this week, I think, because for me, having the two Arsenal attackers, I think is going to be really important, particularly as I don't think Martinelli is the right one to be on.
Well, we'll talk about the midfielders and the choice that you've got at the minute. I have to say, just a quick word on Everton. In fact, no, I'll save my Everton conversation because I did notice something about the amount of possession they had, the amount of passes that they made Everton. They had a lot of the ball, they made a lot of passes, just didn't know what to do with it when they had it. There's just no creativity. But let's save that for the conversation when we get there because, I think we are kind of target Everton now. They're one of the teams to target without a doubt until Frank goes, until there's something there that changes. Let's have that Arsenal midfield discussion then. I'm on Martinelli, so are you.
Yeah, wrong one.
Are you thinking of replacing him with somebody then or adding to him? Because of the double game week, it feels a bit wrong to be taking Martinelli out, despite the fact we got what I expected to see this week, and I expect to see a lot more going forward, which is Trossard coming in for him on about, I don't know what that was, 70, 75 minutes.
And I do wonder whether, as Trossard beds into the Arsenal way, we might see more of Trossard.
And he was pretty involved with the goal as well, the winner. And you're like, ooh, as a Martinelli, and you're sitting there going, well, he come on and actually done pretty well, didn't he?
I think Martinelli falls in the same camp as Almiron, right? A lot of us kept Martinelli. You and I both. I think I'm speaking for you too. And
I've got him.
This.
Yeah, I've got him.
But we kept him. Going out of the World Cup, going into the World Cup, I had Saka and Martinelli, both of them. And I was torn on which way to go. And in the end, I kept Martinelli over Saka for a couple of reasons. One was the price tag. But the most important reason why I kept Martinelli was because I had so much money invested in him. And I was worried about if I sold him and it was a mistake, buying him back is harder.
Yes.
But I'm at the stage now where we are 4 games? 17, 18, 19, 4 games into the restart. And every time I've watched Arsenal, including in person, it's not Martinelli. And every time I watch him, I'm like, it's not you. It's Ødegaard, yes. But really, it's Saka I want. I like Ødegaard because he's offering that nice cheap value. But Saka he just looks flames at the minute, and he's doing all the right things. He's guaranteed the starts. He's not going to be rotated in a way that I worry that Martinelli might every now and then.
Can I just throw another name in the mix then? Because one of the reasons I was holding on to Martinelli is that potentially I thought, well, he might go up top if Trossard comes left. But the way that Eddie played today, the way that Eddie Nketiah has been playing since he's coming to that team, has been phenomenal. He was top amongst all assets this week for shots, by the way, with 6.
How far away is Jesus? Do we know?
I don't know if we know how far Gabriel Jesus is away, but right now Eddie Nketiah is an able deputy. He was second overall for BPS this game week, second obviously only to Haaland with the hat trick, obviously. So Eddie right in amongst it, and as you suggest, Ødegaard also a bit unlucky. Ødegaard owners to only come away with just an assist today because he is in the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's 7th for XG underachievers across the whole game week as well so far with 0.42 minus 0.42. So could have had a goal as well, Ødegaard. He was in the mix. It just so happens that it was Saka that brought home the points today. I have to say, going into this period of decent games for Arsenal, including the double game week, I still don't feel like I want to move off of Martinelli. Right. I want more of it, and I want either Saka or Ødegaard. But I still feel like it's a bit. It still feels sideways. Or do you think? Do you genuinely think Ødegaard and Saka are worth -4ing Martinelli out because they are so much the two that you need?
Yeah, I do think that.
Yeah, I can see you're thinking of it. I have to say, I'm thinking of Nketiah, my side as well. I'm thinking Nketiah. Well, I know that's an easy thing to say. We're going to talk about my team in a minute, but there's a certain Darwin Núñez that's not looking particularly good, and we're looking pretty crap as well. So to go from Núñez to Eddie Nketiah would be the money that I need to go from Almiron to Bruno Fernandes. So we're all thinking about how we fund Bruno Fernandes. You're taking Cancelo down. I've already gone down to John Stones, so I can't really go much further than that. So the way that I would fund it, I think, would be Darwin Núñez out to Eddie Nketiah and go that way.
Yeah, I mean, I've still got Darwin-shaped problems. I'd like to step
potentially.
In. And this is why I think I said on the pod last week, I can see myself edging closer and closer towards a wild card because I know the players I want now and I can get them. But there's -4s here and there.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of consider, well, all right, if I'm -4 here and there to get these players in, knowing that we might get blanks, or we are going to get blanks, but we might get important blanks in 25, we have to kind of consider how far is it worth waiting and making these -4s as we go.
Yeah.
Or just hitting the button and doing it now.
Yeah. One thing's for sure. I do feel okay. I've found a bit of peace with not getting on Matoma this week. No, when I set my team up and I'm like, I do want 2 free transfers this game week. I'm looking at it going, yeah, that team needs a couple of free transfers to maximise the double game weeks that are coming up, to get onto the Brunos and the Nketiahs and the extra Arsenal midfielder. We'll talk more about transfers later on, but the fact that I missed out on the Matoma points this week, I feel a little bit more at peace now that I've seen my team. I've got 2 free transfers. I feel a little bit more comfortable with that.
The other thing is, by not having done Matoma last week, obviously you still leave the Almiron position. I think it would be harder to sell Matoma.
Well, it would. I mean, let's dive into them, right? So let's go to, where are we? Brighton. Leicester 2, Brighton 2. I have to say...
Were you surprised by this result? Because I was.
Yeah, I was expecting the away win. Yeah, I have to say. I was expecting the away win.
They've not won there, though, have they, Brighton? They've never won at Leicester. I didn't know that.
It's obviously a difficult place for them to go, yeah. But listen, that Mitoma's goal, I don't know if you've seen the goal, but it's class. It's just class. He just drifts in on that right foot and he curled it in the top corner. It was beautiful. And he gets the 3 bonus points as well along in that game. So it wasn't just he scored the goal and just sort of didn't do much the rest of the game. He was absolutely part of it. And an interesting, again, another interesting stat that I saw on Fantasy Football Scout, which is here. Let me just find it because my iPad has turned itself off. Yeah, there it is, Solly March. So 6th overall for XG underachievers with -0.44. So it was March that brought home the points last week with Mitoma on the XG underachievers, and then this week it's the opposite. So I kind of feel like whichever one you go for, you're probably okay and you stick with. If you've got onto Solly March, I think that's okay, and if you're on Mitoma, I think that's okay. I still am leaning towards Mitoma, although we've got all these things, all these Arsenal Man United things we want to do now, right? Yeah. So where does he fit?
And
find it difficult.
Could blank in 25 and
blank in 20.
And this is where actually by the time game week 20, and this is why I would really urge everyone to not do anything until the end of next week, because and by the end of next week I mean like not this week coming, the one after, because by that point we'll obviously know whether Manchester United double because of the result of the FA Cup, and we will know the result of the League Cup semi-finals.
Yes.
And therefore we will know which team's blank in 25. So with the 2 transfers that I have going into game week 21, going into game week 22, I am absolutely not doing anything, regardless of whether players rise and fall, whatever happens. No transfers will be made. I'm not even going to open the app until after the FA Cup result.
Yeah.
And then I will consider where we are.
Tell me about this this Brighton team then. What is De Zerbi doing that's making them so offensively astute? And actually, what is it that's making them a little bit defensively more open? I'll give you a bit of a stat that I saw on FF Scout was that top for passing across the whole game this weekend so far is Dunk. So Dunk, the most passes with over 150 passes in the game at Leicester at the weekend. And there was also another stat here. Let me just bring it up that I saw. Touches in the opponent's half. The stat that usually we reserve for João Cancelo.
God, he's not appeared for ages.
Lewis Dunk, again, over 150 touches in the opponent's half. To put that into context, the next best was Iwobi for Everton, who got like 100, what's that? It looks like 105, 106. So Dunk, really, really high. So his pass completion rate left and right. He's playing like almost like a bit of a sweeper role. But that tells me that he's getting a lot of touches in the opponent's half. The Brighton line is very high. They're playing a really risky game, Brighton, but that's meaning that they can squeeze up and take the game to the opposition and really attack. It does mean that they're going to get caught. They're going to get caught out every now and again.
Yeah.
But he's playing a risky game, De Zerbi, and so far it's working for him. I wonder whether long term that's going to be what they do, because they're going to be quite susceptible to counter attacks, I suspect. But with Leicester, haven't necessarily got that much threat on the counter attack. It'd be interesting if they come up against a team that does give them a bit. Well, yeah, Son used to be, didn't he? But I don't know whether he is or not really anymore. But against a team that can properly counter attack. Yeah, no, but proper pace on the counter. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's really interesting with Brighton, because when you look at Potter's Brighton and De Zerbi's Brighton, it's actually pretty much the same team. It is pretty much the same starting 11. A couple of tweaks here and there, and obviously they've. What I thought was really interesting today in the game yesterday is obviously he benched Ferguson, and it was Ferguson that came on and ended up getting the goal that got them the draw in the end. So I don't think he'll drop him again for next week. I think he's a fairly safe.
Looks a good prospect, Ferguson. I think.
Yeah, I think he's a safe option for FPL
young
managers.
Lad, but physical. I like the look of him, to be honest with you. He's young. I mean, he's gonna. If De Zerbi's got any sense about him, which clearly he has, he looks like a top manager. He's going to just what's the right phrase?
Develop.
Ease him in. He's going to ease in Evan Ferguson, I think, this season potentially.
I don't think he needs to ease him in. He's played the last 3 that he started, returned in each of them, got benched for this one, came off the bench and scored the equalising goal that got them a point. Like, I think the kid is much, much better than Danny Welbeck, so that's what I'd be doing.
Yeah. But, and Undav doesn't seem to be coming to the fore in quite the way that we thought he might. Yeah.
So I think what you've actually got is 2 fundamentally different managers, haven't you, who are deploying the same players in the same way. Now, what Potter was able to do with that team is bring out the best defensive side of them, because they were. The way that they set up and the way that they played, it was with defensive security. It was careful passing. It wasn't too progressive. It was a lot of kind of hard work and graft from the defenders. What we're seeing now is a bit more freedom for the likes of Lewis Dunk to say, okay, when you get the ball, take it out. Take it into the final, take it up into the opponent's half and pass it.
Yeah.
And send it. And that's why he's getting touches and passes in the opponent's half, because that's not something we would have seen from Lewis Dunk last season.
The chat's saying that must be a misquote. Like Toby Patterson must be a misquote. It's there in black and white in front of me. I can see the stats on FF Scout. So if it is wrong, I'll be taking it up with the folks at FF Scout.
It won't be wrong.
That's what the stats say. It's over 150 touches in the opponent's half for Dunk this week. Unbelievable, isn't it?
Opta, so
it's incredible.
It's not wrong. Comes directly from Opta, that feed. It's a complete change. It's a complete change in the way that Brighton are deploying the same players that they always used to. And he's giving them more licence to attack and more licence to go forward. Now, what that is meaning is that defensively they struggle sometimes, because they're leaving themselves more open to counter-attack, and they're leaving themselves more open to kind of gaps in the back line, because they're sending the defenders in a bit more advanced positions than they ever have before.
Are you going to bring any of them in, though?
Well, again, it's going to sadly depend upon what happens across the next 2 weeks.
Couple of weeks, right?
If Brighton blank in 25, then I think you have to really consider what you're doing, because if we get a situation where Manchester United and Newcastle do make it to the League Cup final, which is what we're expecting, and Brentford and Brighton therefore blank as a direct result of that happening, because Manchester United double in game week 22, hopefully, they will have to be prioritised for investment, which probably means sacrificing Brighton, because if I'm going to treble up on Manchester United, and I've obviously got Trippier, now my treble up would also reduce my Newcastle coverage, so I'd still have 4. If I was to then invest in Brighton as well, I'd be looking at 5 players potentially who don't play in 25. Now there's two ways of looking at that. The first one is that it could mean I miss out on some really nice returns from Brighton over the next few weeks.
I think anybody that bought in Matoma for this week,
well, you have to.
I think you're laughing. I think you've got 3 or 4 weeks of a really nice differential that no one else is going to get, because potentially blanks in 25.
But also, I think it's not just that he potentially blanks in 25, because if we had single game weeks between now and 25, I would prioritise investment in Brighton.
Yeah.
However, because Arsenal, Manchester United and Man City...
we're all looking in a different direction, aren't we?
Between now and the blank, I kind of feel I have to put my investment there. Because
even Leeds, I mean...
And Leeds, of course,
the chat is saying, right, are we ignoring Leeds players? Well, we're not. I mean, they're there, definitely. But yeah, I think the priority is United and Arsenal, as we said at the top of the show. Which
is a shame, because I think the Brighton attacking players can offer you such great value for money. And if you are actually planning to wildcard in the next couple of weeks, then I think investing in one Brighton player works quite nicely. Yeah. Because you can.
All right. So good game that. Leicester 2, Brighton 2. Speaking of good games, Liverpool 0, Chelsea 0. Absolutely.
Let's have a little nap while you talk about
this. Not a good game. I think I sat here last Sunday and said, pretty sure this is going to be a 0-0. And it was. And it could have been different. I mean, Chelsea could have
Havertz,
first
right?
couple of minutes, wasn't it? Havertz had one ruled out for VAR because he was offside, even though he was behind Thiago Silva. I'm not sure I fully understand the rules, to be honest with you, but as a Liverpool fan, I'm going to take it. The start of the show, once again, was Kepa. Comes in with I think a 9 or a 10, 9-pointer to back up his 10-pointer from last week. So good. But listen, from an FPL perspective, I don't think you're touching either of these teams. You've got Darwin in your team, so have I. What do you plan to do with him?
Well, so I very, very nearly took out Darwin this week.
You nearly went Darwin to Evan Ferguson, didn't you? Yes, you were close to that.
That is what I was going to do. And obviously Lee was at Sky, which meant I was watching Max do his football training on Saturday morning, which is 10 till 11. And I stood on the side chatting to one of the other dads who also plays FPL. And we were both Darwin owners, both debating Darwin. And then about 5 to 11, when I'd sort of gone, I was talking to the guys in the Slack, and I'd seen Duncan say there's some rumours he's not going to start, and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Then the coach come over and started talking to us about frozen pitches and how the game might be off tomorrow.
Yeah, to concentrate back on the Sunday League.
I'm listening to the manager.
Never mind Premier League, it's all about Sunday League.
Okay, right, yeah, okay, great. Look at my phone, 1 minute past 11, and I was like, do you know what? I'm probably all right with this, actually, because I nearly went with the Evan Ferguson move. And had I been sat at home when that was happening, I think I would have done it.
Would you have done it?
However, now, I'm glad that I haven't, because there's so many things I want to do with those transfers that I'm glad I've still got 2. I am just a bit frustrated that I didn't bench him, which is what I should have done. I should have benched him for Pereira.
Yeah.
And instead, I just thought, I'll just leave him there.
Well, I've got my own story about Mr. Darwin, which I'll talk to you about when I show you my team. But as FPL Harry is saying, so dull that game. Yeah, it was dull. And actually, when you contrast it to the game that we've just seen this afternoon, Arsenal versus Man U, there's 2 teams on the up, fighting for it. That I can't get over how impressed I was with the way that Arsenal went for that game. And obviously, I was, I like seeing Arsenal do well, and I know this is the reason I'm hesitating because you're sitting next to me. But I like seeing Arsenal do well because I feel like they've built it. I feel like Arteta, they've trusted the process, they've built what they're, and now they're seeing the success.
The process.
I think the way they've gone about
those Arteta outs.
The way they've gone about their business, Arsenal is brilliant. And don't get me wrong, it's going to come back around for Liverpool and Chelsea, right? But both teams are going through a bit of transition.
You need a new manager.
We do not need a new manager.
Chelsea, you know what they need? They need to spend more money.
You've got both of those things wrong, Sam, I'm afraid. They don't need to spend any more money.
Chelsea...
They need a forward. So maybe they do need to spend more money.
They do. They need a forward.
But from a Liverpool perspective,
they need Lukaku back.
We need midfielders. I thought Bacetić come in and did a pretty good job. And no shock, really, that he comes in and we keep a clean sheet. It's just that the rest of them couldn't hit a donkey's ass with a banjo.
If you've got Salah...
Yeah.
Is it the easiest switch in the world to go to Bruno?
Probably, yeah. Probably. Yeah, I mean,
I don't think he's had a shot on target for 3 weeks, has he?
Salah? I don't think you can have Salah at the minute. I think he's working. Like when you look at the work rate, you look at the kilometres covered and all that sort of thing. He's there. He's putting a shift in.
I think it's 3 weeks since he's had a shot.
But it's just
on target.
It's just who's around him. You just can't have Salah at the minute. I honestly don't think that. I noticed actually that top for XG underachievers this game week is Cody Gakpo, minus 0.88. Now, I don't remember us having a big XG chance, so I need to go back and look at the highlights to see when he had all this XG. Certainly Chelsea had some reasonable XG. I think there was an opportunity. I can't remember. I think the Chelsea midfielder whose name I can't pronounce had a really good opportunity, and Alisson saved. That was a high XG chance. But outside of that, it was a bit of a dull game, no doubt about it. And from an FPL perspective, if we look at the fixtures for both clubs, so Liverpool, Wolves away, which it's looking difficult. Then it's the Merseyside derby, which is the perfect game for Everton to find some form, by the way. Then we go to St James's. Well, good luck there. Crystal Palace, Man United. I mean, you are not investing in Liverpool. If anything, you are de-investing. And then if you look at what? To be fair, folks, Sam has had to put up with this all weekend from me. I've been so negative about Liverpool this weekend, haven't I?
Honestly,
it's been such a whinger from me about Liverpool this weekend. It's unreal.
I didn't see us Saturday morning. Off he went to Sky.
God.
He comes over from Sky. He meets up with us, and we're at home by this point. I'm like, right, you want to have lunch? We'll watch Liverpool. I don't want to watch Liverpool. We didn't even kicked off. They had not even kicked. I don't want to watch. They'll make me annoyed. I'll watch it, and then I'm like, no, we're gonna stay and watch it. We're gonna watch it.
I saw the starting lineup and I perked up a bit because Ox wasn't in it. So I perked up a bit. I was like, right, at least we're playing with 11 men this week. And then when Chelsea scored, I know it got ruled off, but when that Havertz goal goes in, I was like, oh, screw it. I could have done anything other than watch football.
Anyway, moving on from that. So he's annoyed. All day. Everything annoyed him about that day.
He's fuming.
Nothing.
And then Klopp says it's a step. What do they say? It's a step in the right direction.
What was your
draw? Oh, God, it ruined me, that did.
Well, anyway.
Ruined me.
So as you can see...
Paul Cook is saying, doesn't sound like you, Lee. Yeah,
this was Lee's mood all Saturday. Definitely and then today, for some unknown reason, he's been in a bigger grump today. I think because...
that's because of Rashford. I'm coming to that. I
think also because... He's watched Manchester City win and Arsenal and Manchester United play a blinding game and realised that his team are properly in the mud.
100%.
Because at one point they flashed up the league table where you went, Brentford are even above us.
Brentford are above us and they deserve it. Brighton are above us and they deserve it, honestly. And when you watched that Arsenal Man U game, I was glued. What a great game that was. I was like, Arsenal, they're so... But Arsenal remind me of us a couple of seasons ago. They've got the spirit. They've got the je ne sais quoi. They've got something about and they go for it. They go for the win. They're hugging each other. They're high-fiving at the end. And I'm just like,
does anybody want
wish I had that back at Liverpool at the minute?
But houses for the next couple of weeks?
Anyway, I'm pretty sure that FPL Harry would say the same about Chelsea.
I don't really want Harry to come live here either because I think he'd just be as negative as you.
Their fixtures look a little bit better. They've got no end of London derbies coming up. Fulham, West Ham and Spurs, 3 of the next 4.
West Ham finally finding some form.
And then Southampton and Leeds in 24 and 25. So Chelsea... I think if you're invested, they're not a priority sell, but equally there are other teams, not least, well, we keep going back to them, right? United and Arsenal that you'd want to go to. So based on what we saw Saturday lunchtime, I'm going nowhere near those teams and I'm absolutely considering Darwin out for next week for Eddie Nketiah, but we'll talk about that a bit later on. Any of these other games that we want to talk about? Sam, Haaland is back being a beast again, 3-0. We don't need to talk about that other than just an assist for De Bruyne. Is that enough to justify his price tag?
No, I still think you could save a load of money and have Mahrez instead, who's performing just as well and matching him every step. I know he actually didn't today because KDB I think got some baps, didn't he?
Did he get a bonus point? No. Stones 2, Laporte 2. So no, he was close by the way. He was one underlying BPS away from Stones and Laporte's 27, so he was close.
Okay, so I mean my point stands then. I think that Mahrez. Look, I'm not saying that Mahrez is a hold forever. Certainly not. Because Mahrez purple patch galore. However, right now, with the form that he's in, better option than KDB.
Can't sell him though.
Give them the price.
Can't sell him. You're not going to sell KDB ahead of... It's a sign... Unless you need the money...
But that's what I was going to say. I think potentially, if you don't have the money to get... If you still don't have Rashford and you really needed the money...
Everyone's got Rashford,
or you want Bruno Fernandes, so you want to sell...
or something.
Or you want to sell KDB because you want Bruno Fernandes for 22, and then you can't afford to bring him back in because you don't want to do the hokey cokey, then you could go Mahrez and the back end of that.
Yeah.
If you're not invested in Man City at all, apart from Haaland and maybe a defender, I don't think you'd pick KDB as your third at the moment.
At the moment, I don't think so. No, I don't think so. But anyway, of course, Haaland top for BPS across the game week. It says 81 here on the official site. Scout says 78. Either way, he's blowing away anybody else in the bonus point system this week with his hat trick. So anybody that captained him, well done, although it didn't bring me any pleasure to captain him because literally everyone's captaining him. So it's like
800 places he moved me up every time he did something.
It's like, so what?
800
places.
So
what? Yeah. Right, that is enough of those games. I don't want to talk about any more. Of course, we've got Fulham versus Spurs coming up tomorrow to look forward to. But in the meantime, let's look at our team, Sam. Before we do, a quick shout out for our Patreon community, patreon.com/FPL Family. If you want a little bit more of Sam and Lee in your life, then go and follow us over on patreon.com
happy face
FPL Family. Come and get more of my Liverpool feedback in the Slack. Yeah, the Slackers will just be like, yeah, we know Lee's negative.
We know that Lee's having a bad weekend.
We know.
We get it.
He whinges about Liverpool all the time. Yeah, we get it. So if you want more Lee positivity about Liverpool and how great we are, patreon.com/FPL Family. I'm really selling it here, aren't I? Really selling it.
I'm happy.
You get Sam talking about Spurs. Yeah, that's really jolly as well most of the time at the minute.
Well, look, slackers. I've been nothing but positive this weekend.
It's me and Wilco.
It's been great. I wish we played on a Monday every week.
It's me and Wilco, isn't it? Whenever we get going on Liverpool in the Slack, it's just everyone else is just like, oh, here they go. Here's the Liverpool fans, they're off on one. The United fans in the Slack are quite buoyant at the moment, actually, despite the defeat today.
And the Arsenal fans are unbearable.
The Arsenal fans are unbearable, yeah. They need their own little channel to go and chat over there, yeah.
Should we set them up their own channel? Arsenal only.
Arsenal only. Go, take your positivity and go and sit in the corner. Negative only. Liverpool and Chelsea fans only is over it. So if you want to come and join us in the Slack community, patreon.com/FPL Family. We have extra podcasts as well, usually on a Thursday or a Friday. That gets released every single week. And we have Manager of the Month competitions as well. And right now, Sean Thorpe, who's been a long-term FPL Family patron, by the way, he is top of the shop
as well today.
I bet he was at the end of game week 20. This is so we haven't obviously yet finished game week 21, so I haven't totaled up all the scores yet. But currently in the lead, Mr. Sean Thorpe with 187 points across January. Duncan hanging on in there with 182, and Allah in there as well with 181. Sean is, I think he has won it before, hasn't he? I think this would be he would be a two-time champion. I think not the first though, because we've had at least one or two others, haven't we? But Sean, very much well done, sitting pretty at the top of the manager month for January right now with 187. Let's see how these three guys and everybody else in our Patreon community gets on in game week 21. You're up there, yeah.
I'm not anymore. I've not had the best game week this week. It's been really average.
I think you've done all right. I think you're definitely in the top sort of like top 10.
I would suggest, wasn't I? After last week,
doing pretty well. And this week is going okay. It's going pretty well. Talk us through it. A small green arrow.
The smallest of small.
The smallest of green arrows. Yes.
3k up.
Good. Okay. Better than a red.
100%, because actually it is red until Kyle Walker-Peters comes off the bench.
KWP making the difference.
13k moves me up.
Does he really?
Actual legend. KWP.
Because literally no one's got him.
No one's got him. He's a legend, and if he'd have scored, I'd gone absolutely mental. I'd have been really happy on this stream as well.
Can I just say?
What?
It wasn't that long ago we were sitting here, and your overall rank was 2-point-something million. How are you suddenly 302k? What have you been doing? Apart from making good FPL decisions, of course.
I've made some good FPL. Yeah. I've channeled my inner Max and just kind of taken a few more risky punts. And
like genuinely, that's really. I mean, that's awesome for you to be something million. All of a sudden, 302k with taking these leaps up, like the Rashford captain. Was it last week or the week before?
Last week.
You know, just taking some calculated risks against the grain. Is that what you've been doing?
Yeah.
Largely.
Yeah, largely. And like going for Mahrez, going for Mount in their double game weeks.
Tashan is saying in the chat, where the hell did Sam get to 300k? It's just like, where have you come from?
What's happened? At the end of the day, yesterday I was at 250k. So I was like, what's happening? This is madness.
Goodness me.
Yeah, it's been this will be if, and it's a big if because I've got no Pereira and no Mitch tomorrow.
Simon says he's gone the other direction. He's back in the
we've swapped. If if it goes well tomorrow, if Spurs win at 5-0 and Kane gets all 5, then
you've got Kane to go. Yeah.
Then it will stick. And to be honest, if I can get again this game week, I hated my team. I looked at my team going into 21.
It was to just get through it, wasn't it?
And I
roll
hated
the transfer,
it. I hated it, and I rolled the transfer when I knew I wanted to make changes.
Yeah.
Like I wanted Almiron out for Matoma. I didn't want to do it. Darwin and Evan Ferguson, and I didn't really want to do that either. I did want to do it, but I wanted as soon as that double got announced, I was like, I need my transfer now.
What I will say about a lot of the players, and I share, obviously I've got a lot of these players as well, the ones that I had my eye on to transfer out have done nothing this game week to suggest I should keep them. And those are Almiron, probably Martinelli and Darwin. Those are the three that I'm looking at going, I wish you were someone else. And Cancelo for you. Yes, absolutely, yeah.
So I look at my team and I think there's some decent options. Like I don't by any chance don't hate it, but there are a few things that I could do. So Cancelo definitely leaves this week, 100%.
I think you have to now, yeah.
100% he leaves this week, and he's probably going to become an Arsenal defender.
You're going to go White, aren't you?
I think I might go Saliba actually. That's
Saliba. Okay.
Maybe Gabriel, maybe Ben White.
Zinchenko's got to be in the mix as well.
Yeah, I mean
they're
all in the mix. That's why I said an Arsenal defender.
Right.
I like them all. So one of them will be coming. With the idea that my second free transfer will probably be then Almiron to Bruno Fernandes if the double game week stands.
Like it.
If the double game week isn't happening, then Almiron will become Saka instead.
Right, okay.
In order that I just have more Arsenal players in my team.
You just need more Arsenal,
that seems to make sense.
Yeah.
I am
not Ødegaard. Of the two, if you had a straight choice, Saka and Ødegaard, you'd go in Saka still.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think longer term I'll have Saka and Ødegaard and I'll lose Martinelli.
Is it the pens that just tips you towards Saka, do you think?
I think so. I just think Saka's just hitting peak right now.
All right, yeah.
But there is a big temptation to take a -4 to lose Darwin, I must be honest. Because that's my other weak spot in that team.
Who? Where would you go with that transfer? Because if you were talking about bringing in Saka, you'd then have your Arsenal defender, Saka and Martinelli. So who would you have? Not Nketiah, presumably. Well, you couldn't have Nketiah. I couldn't have Nketiah. I mean, I think there's a number of places that you could go. And again, it goes back to the thing when we need to know what happens in the League Cup and with the League Cup final, because I really still like Ferguson as an option in that position. It frees up loads of money. Yeah. Is Nonto from Leeds a forward?
I think so.
Should know that, shouldn't we? I think he is. I think he is. Because, and again, of all of the Leeds players in that double game week, the two that I would consider are Nonto, who I'm almost certain is a forward in the game, and Rodrigo, who I'm almost certain is not. Yeah. I'm almost certain he's a midfielder.
Yeah, forward. So, I mean, that's another option, isn't it? Because, of course, they do play twice, and their other part of the double game week is Forest, who aren't exactly solid. Or they have been better defensively, but they're not solid defensively. So you could go with him. And he would be a nice option. And because he plays twice, it would give me the opportunity to maybe explore that as an option. So there are positions where I think, but 100% this week, Almiron and Cancelo will be my out. It's just who comes in will very much depend on what happens in the FA Cup and the League Cup. Okay, nice. Well, listen, green arrow is a green arrow is a green arrow. So if Harry manages to pop a couple away tomorrow night, which wouldn't be unlike him, let's face it, then that green arrow could get bigger and better. Although no Andreas, because he'd be on your bench, no Mitrovic, they could hurt you potentially. They could hurt
so
me.
So let's see how that gets on with that arrow. But listen, 1,271 in terms of total points, overall rank up to 302k is pretty damn phenomenal, given that coming out of the World Cup you were something like 1.3, 1.4 million. So listen, what you've done in this first 3 or 4 weeks since the restart is pretty bloody good. And I have to say, I'm looking over my shoulder. I'm absolutely looking over my shoulder. So my overall rank is 161k. I have 2 to play. So I have Andreas still to play and I have Kane still to play. My overall rank change is minus 4.3. Like you, I made the mistake of looking at my overall rank partway through the week.
It was the Arsenal game that did it.
It did. The Arsenal game has done for us both, really, because if I looked, and I did look at my live rank after the Man City game, and I looked at De Bruyne getting the assist, and Stones gets the 8 because he got a couple of bonus points. So it was a nice differential for me, actually. John Stones in and around my rank, he had a reasonably low EO actually, so he was good. I was about 80k, and I was like, oh, what a game week this is going to be. And then in my head, I was like, but Rashford's going to hurt me, isn't he?
Yeah.
Now here is my mistake.
I could never understand this.
When you
told me on Friday night you were going to bench Rashford, I was like, what?
I've made a mistake this week. So what I wanted to do was, I had Martinelli and White, and I had Rashford and Shaw, as you can see on the screen. I wanted to try and call that game. I was like, right, I'm going to place a bet on Arsenal or United. Who do I think is going to win that game? And I will bench the 2 players from the team that I don't think is going to win. I thought Arsenal would win the game, so I therefore benched Rashford and Shaw. Now, White and Shaw, 0 and 0, right? So whatever. But yes, I did bench Rashford. Now, when the Darwin news comes in on Saturday at about quarter to deadline, it was deadline 11 o'clock. Yeah. About quarter to 11 was at UK time. I'm presenting on Sky with Holly, and we finished the segment, and it's like the deadline thing's on the screen, isn't it?
It's about 5 minutes.
It's about 4 or 5 minutes. Yeah. So
and you don't have your phone.
You can't have your phone in the studio.
It's over there.
It's over the other side of the studio. So I'm coming off of the screen, coming down from, because we had to stand randomly on Sky this week. So I'm doing it, and Hayley's talking a little bit about her team. We're saying, oh, and thanks Hayley, nice to see you. I'm saying to Holly, oh, how are the kids, everything, everybody good, all the rest of it, having a bit of chit chat. We walk back over to where our phones are, which are on the other side of the studio. And this is sounding like a really long-ass excuse. But over the other side of the studio, Holly gets her phone out and she says, oh, there's a lot of rumour that Trent and Darwin are not going to start for Liverpool. And I'm like, right, change that immediately. And I was in my head, immediately I was like, yeah, because he's just coming back from injury. It wouldn't surprise me if Klopp benched him. Probably should have started Rashford anyway. I'll make the change. Whipped my phone not out of my pocket. No, went and got my phone out of my coat pocket on the other table. Opened it up and loaded up the app, and it's 1 minute past 11. I would absolutely have changed Darwin to Rashford.
But it's interesting though.
But it is still a mistake because having gone on to present, I've set my team, and I consciously put Rashford on the bench because I was back in Arsenal today and not United. So it is a mistake. No doubt.
I get it. I do get the picking thing, but I think in all games, my feeling is that teams like United and Arsenal, you back the attackers to get points. Yeah. I would have backed both teams to score in that game. For me, the decision Rashford would never have sat on the bench. If I had to bench someone, I did.
It's a big mistake.
I benched Pereira, and that could still be wrong.
Yeah, but listen, as I was going through the week, that was I was looking at it and I was like, right, Rashford or Andreas.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but I fancy Fulham to do all right against you tomorrow at home. And I fancy Andreas to do all right. So I put him in my team. And I was like, right, well, Almiron away at Palace. That's his last dance. So it was between Andreas and Rashford, really. And then the Darwin news comes in. And I'm like, right, I definitely got to get him on the bench. And I will get Rashford in my 11. But anyway, I'm making excuses. It's a mistake. I've missed out on 7 points there. Well, Darwin gets 1. I've missed out on 6 points. No doubt about it. I have still got 2 to play. Andreas is in my 11. I've got Harry as well. I'm hoping that once those 2 happen, and if Andreas gets anything, I noticed his EO in and around my rank is less than 10%. So a lot of people have benched him and not played him this week.
I was going to say, because like I have, a lot of people, for a lot of managers now, Andreas sits in that, he is the 8th of 8.
Yeah.
And you want to play the other 7. And therefore, he is a very difficult player to play because you have to do what you've done and bench somebody who in a normal week you wouldn't want to do.
Yeah. I mean, it is a mistake. I was like, I didn't want to sit on the fence. I was like, am I going to back Arsenal for the win or United for the win? I was like, without Casemiro, they might struggle without the ball. I expect Arsenal to have more control of the game. I think Arsenal will win the game. As it was, he's pulled out an absolute worldie, Rashford. No doubt about it. He's pulled out a worldie, and it's hurt my rank because with that 7 rather than that 1 from Darwin, I'd probably be about 120, 110k, but it is what it is. It's a mistake, no doubt about it. So I've just got to cross my fingers now and hope that Andreas gets something. But nevertheless, This time last week, I was at 220 odd K. I went up a little bit on the back of last game week because last time we streamed, we hadn't had the second half of the double game week, had we? So in that double game week, I did pretty well, I think. So here we are back now on 161k or something like that. So it's fine. So we'll wait and see. We've got the 2 leftovers. As I said, when your team was up, I've got like Martinelli, I've got Darwin, I've got De Bruyne, I've got Almiron. I'm not buzzing about having any of these players in my team. And my 2 free transfers are likely to be Darwin out for Eddie Nketiah and Almiron out for Bruno Fernandes. If I want to keep Darwin, I would have to sacrifice De Bruyne. I'd have to go De Bruyne.
Why would you want to keep Darwin at the moment?
No, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right.
That's a genuine question. That's not a dig at Liverpool. That's a genuine question. Is there any reason to hold Darwin right now?
Yeah, because we look better when he plays. One of the reasons we were so bad against Chelsea in that first half was because we didn't have any... There was no chaos ball, was there? Well, let's have a look at the fixtures. It certainly doesn't look like a fixture list that... I mean, going away to Wolves, difficult. That Everton game, it's Everton at home. You'd back us to win, surely. But it's the Merseyside derby and anything can happen.
And the last time it was draw, wasn't it?
Then we go to Newcastle, who don't concede. Never mind to us. They just don't concede full stop. Palace away, which is going to be a difficult game. Then it's Man U. This is I don't know how we are this far up on the fixture ticket because those are difficult games. It's the Everton one, I think, that's boosting us up. But yeah, I would have, if we get to the end of this little mini FPL break and Eddie's fit and all the sort of things fall into place, Darwin to Eddie Nketiah to fund Almiron to Bruno Fernandes is definitely something I'd think of. The only reason I wouldn't do that is because then I don't have Ødegaard or Saka. And I want one of them, if not both of them, to be honest with you.
I know. Yeah. And it's really difficult because that's part of my thinking as well, is that would really like to treble up on Manchester United with their double. I'd really like Bruno Fernandes, but that means not having another Arsenal attacker, and I would really like...
The alternative is I downgrade De Bruyne to Fernandes and then use that money to upgrade Almiron to an Ødegaard or to a Saka. I think I've just about got enough money to do Saka there. I mean, Darwin stays in my team. And then I could maybe -4 him out in the way that you were thinking to whoever. But
because then you could hokey cokey with KDB
maybe.
And Bruno, or you have the opportunity to sell KDB for Bruno and then...
Well, this is the other thing.
And then go Mahrez instead.
This is the other thing, is if I do downgrade De Bruyne to Fernandes for the double game week, I'd want to get back onto a Man City midfielder
for their double. But you don't have to.
But it might not be De Bruyne.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So lots.
And this is why you've got to be careful with transfers and not doing things too soon.
Yes, absolutely. But nevertheless, I am very much looking over my shoulder. How many points have you got? 1271, and I've got 1288. I mean, you're 17 ahead. Is that it? I need Andreas to hat-trick against you tomorrow.
I need Andreas to be sent off. Score an own goal, score 2 own goals, and then get sent off while Kane gets the other 3.
Oh, well,
then Spurs win 5-0. I'm happy. My team's good. Life's okay.
All right. Well, listen,
Somebody's got to make amends for your grumps by being in a good mood.
How that game goes, but lesson learned on the Rashford benching. Yes, that was a stinker on my part, no doubt about it. So there we go, Sam. That is the end of tonight's live stream. What is coming up this week?
Well, it's a quiet week actually this week, isn't it?
Is it? Okay.
Well, it's a quiet week because there's no FPL next weekend because it's the FA Cup. That's what I mean by that.
Yeah, of course.
But you will be able to find both of us on the official FPL pod this week because...
Yes, we're together, aren't we, on Thursday?
You're coming to join me, Cows and Jules.
Yes, let's go.
For a chat about how things have been since the restart. Oh, God,
they're going to ask me, but why did I bench Rashford? Oh, no, that's going to be a difficult one to answer.
They're also, it's a general recap of the last few weeks. So we're also going to talk about your triple captaincy.
Oh, it's going to be awkward, isn't it?
All the fun things that have happened to Liverpool over the last few weeks. We're going to want to know about that. It's going to be great.
How are Kelly and Jules doing in terms of rank?
Well, Kelly has swapped places with me in overall rank.
Oh, is she down in 1 million?
Yeah.
Oh, that's all right.
She's in a she won't mind me saying this, but she's in a mini league. She mentions it on the pod every week. She's in a mini league with her future husband.
Mm-hmm.
And the prize or the forfeit for the loser rather is they have to pay for the wedding. She was
quite a big forfeit, isn't it?
She was absolutely smashing him, right? Absolutely smashing him. Suddenly, in the last few weeks, Max, it must be something in the name, has gone on an absolute right. This week he brought in Eddie Nketiah. He's up to like 10k or something. She's just like, I'm not paying for the wedding. I'm not paying. So Leo will be on the podcast this week with us. There will be an Ohana as usual if you are a patron. We'll put out our thoughts after the first round of the League Cup with kind of where we are with that.
Yes.
And then obviously there'll be another Ohana after the FA Cup and the second round of the League Cup. Normal service will continue on our social media channels as well. And then we'll be back. We won't be back probably next Sunday, will we?
I think we might stop for a week. Or...
Do you want to come back and do more on Liverpool?
Not really, no. To be honest. I'm thinking about selling Darwin and no one from Liverpool's ever coming back in my team.
Oh, dear. Maybe we'll put out some voice notes across the FA Cup weekend instead.
Oh, that's a good point, actually. Yes, I hope you podcasters, and even if you are on the YouTube live stream right now, get over to wherever you get your podcasts and hit that follow and subscribe button, or do whatever the button says for your preferred podcast platform. Follow us, because hopefully you've noticed we're doing the little mini podcast series, the FPL voice notes, right? So every now and again, and there's no plan for these, right? Whenever we feel like we've just got something to get off our chest or just talk about from an FPL perspective, either you or me or both of us will jump on the mic, or we just record it in our phones and stick it out there as a mini podcast. So this podcast, this long form podcast, which is like an hour and a bit, you're always going to have that. That'll always be on your favourite podcasting platform. Some of you are listening to it now. Thank you very much indeed. But you'll notice as we go through the week, there's these like mini 8, 9, 10 minute podcasts. So if you want more of that stuff, let us know. If you like those, get in the comments in YouTube or whatever on Apple Music, whatever. Let us know, because we do more of those. If you think they're guff, tell us and we'll stop. But if you like them, then we'll do more of those kind of mini podcasts. They'll only be guff if you rant about Liverpool on them. Well, do you know what? I was looking at some of the viewing figures, and actually the viewing figures, the listening figures on the platform that we use. Actually, a couple of thousand people listening to each of those voice notes. So it's, definitely, it feels like, from what I'm seeing on the numbers, you guys are liking them. So let us know on Twitter or wherever if you like the FPL Family voice notes mini podcast series. I'm enjoying doing them because it's like a quick, just like, I've got to get off my chest, rant into my phone for a bit. Or actually, if I've seen and watched a good game, I'll just talk about it from an FPL perspective for about 5 or 6 minutes, upload it as a pod. Takes like 2 or 3 minutes. Hopefully it's like a little bit of, during the week, bit of extra value outside of the regular weekly podcast. So I hope you're enjoying those, guys. That's it for tonight's FPL Family. Thank you very much for joining us. If you are new around here, hit that subscribe button and the little notify bell so that you know whenever we have a video live on the channel, and leave us a like before you go. Good luck to anyone that's got Andreas Pereira in that game tomorrow against Spurs.
For the sake of the podcast,
Andreas.
I am pointing my thumb downward.
Come on, Mr. Pereira, and we'll see you probably in a couple of weeks' time back here again on the FPL Family channel. Cheers, guys.
Come on, you Spurs. Bye, guys.